New in the last 5 minutes, women around the world mobilize for Syria in the last 10 minutes. Syria's Ghouta bombarded for 5th day in the last 15 minutes. Strikes hit Syria's Ghouta for 5th day as UN pleads for ceasefire in the last half hour. In the last hour, UAE expresses concern over violence in Ghouta. Syria situation in Syrian city, increasingly desperate. Moscow asks UN to convene meeting to discuss Eastern Ghouta situation in the last 2 hours. France supports UNSG on Syrian ceasefire. Humanitarian truce. Fresh rocket fire on Syria enclave kills 13. Monitor voices from Eastern Ghouta. They will all die, one by one. The massacre must be ended without delay. In the last 4 hours, White House strongly condemns attacks in Eastern Ghouta Syrian. Government offensive prompts calls for intensified U.S. military. The world sits by as another massacre unfolds in Syria in the last 6 hours. Unimaginable carnage, as Ghouta blockade enters second week. UN Security Council to meet over Syria's East Ghouta on Thursday. UN chief appeals for truce for Syria's besieged Ghouta. Russia talks to end conflict in Syria's Eastern Ghouta. Breakdown in the last 8 hours. Syria, 400,000 trapped in Assad's campaign in Eastern Ghouta. Civilians in Syria's Eastern Ghouta, we are waiting our turn to die. Under siege. Syrians waiting our turn to die. UN vote expected on 30-day ceasefire in Syria to help needy. Earlier today, fire and fury on existing violence in Syria's Eastern Ghouta. Spotlight. Peace far away as showdown approaches Syria's Eastern Ghouta. Syria's Eastern Ghouta faces another Aleppo. Yesterday, Globe editorial: massacre in Ghouta calls for world attention. Eastern Ghouta militants holding civilians hostage. Russia UN head urges ceasefire in Syria's Eastern Ghouta region. PHR demands cessation of hostilities in Syria. Egypt voices concern over situation in Syria's Eastern Ghouta. Fresh strikes on Eastern Ghouta as activists fear ground assault in Syria's war-torn Ghouta district. We are waiting our turn to die. Russia military says negotiations for halt in Ghouta. Failed crisis in Syria's Eastern Ghouta has intensified dramatically. UN monstrous annihilation campaign in Eastern Ghouta talks to end conflict in Syria's Eastern Ghouta. Breakdown. Russia civilians waiting their turn to die. Talks to end conflict in Syria's Eastern Ghouta. Breakdown. Talks to end conflict in Syria's Eastern Ghouta. Broke down. Russia Ghouta civilians slaughtered in droves, says UN. Heavy bombardment hit several towns in East Ghouta. We are waiting for our turn to die. Dozens dead amid Syrian bombardment of Eastern Ghouta. Syrian civilians pay the price in Ghouta. Bombs rain on Eastern Ghouta. Death toll above 200. Assad's forces are killing dozens of children in a Damascus suburb. I want safety for my children. Have May and Blackford forgotten about Syria's jihadists? More bombs hit Eastern Ghouta. Syria's Jafari. We are killing terrorists, not people. Syrians cower in basements as bombs pound Ghouta. Airstrikes pound Damascus suburb, leaving more than 300 civilians dead. Syria enclave crisis catastrophic. Rebels in Syria prepare for final Assad assault on Ghouta. New deadly strikes hit Damascus suburb. Russia calls for UN meeting on Syria's Eastern Ghouta. UN chief. People in
living in hell on earth. Syria's embattled Eastern Ghouta district. 10 questions. Syrians cower in basements as bombs pound enclave. Photoblog. Pictures of extermination in Eastern Ghouta.
Graphic content. New deadly attacks on rebel-held Eastern Ghouta. Eastern Ghouta. Aid groups make desperate pleas for action. Russia denies role in brutal Eastern Ghouta bombardment. Red Cross demands access to Eastern Ghouta's injured. Germany calls for end to massacre in Eastern Ghouta.